So with the benefit of the recording, I would really love discussion, input, feedback on all of these ideas. I took on a topic, and especially a Mishna, that I think most people did not want to address because of its controversial nature, as we'll see. Hello, Father. Hello, Rebbitzin. So I would really like this to be a discussion, with the idea being, I've done some thinking on this, obviously, but my thinking could be wrong, or could be, 90% correct. In which case, your feedback and your contribution to the discussion will be greatly appreciated. Hello, Brocho. So it's certainly not intended as a lecture in that sense, but rather an exploration of ideas that I hope we'll be able to do together. You can all see my slide, inclusion and exclusion in the Jewish home.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And of course, this is part of a series of shiurim that are being given around the country and, in fact, around the world in memory of the late Eric Samson, Israel ben David, Zecher Livracha. And although I never met him, I know him through his work, through his family, I saw that most wonderful documentary that they put out after his passing, and I was just in awe of this the special man, the amount he's contributed, and the way that through who he was and through what he did, so many people really have a place in the world, a place in the community, and therefore I thought it certainly loved Pirkei Avot, and that's why the family and the chief rabbi running this Pirkei Avot drive initiative of learning Pirkei Avot in his memory, and especially the theme that I thought of. Even if you wouldn't agree with everything I might say, and as I said, it's intentionally more controversial than what I usually discuss. I hope you would at least appreciate the effort, and I hope you agree with the conclusions, or many of them as well. So, without further ado, what is this controversial mission that I keep advertising? I'm just going to mute everyone because there's background noise, but please don't take that as an invitation not to speak. By the contrary, we'd love to hear from you every time we elicit feedback. What is the Mishnah? The Mishnah is Pirkei Avot, chapter 5. Yosef ben Yochanan, the man of Jerusalem, says, "May your home be open wide. May the poor be members of your household, and do not increase conversation with the woman." They so stated with his wife, all the more so with the wife of his friend. From this, the sages said, anytime that a man increases conversation with the woman, he causes evil to himself and neglects words of Torah, and in the end, he inherits Gehennom, in other words, hell. So you can understand why this starts as, Pirkei Avot is such a wonderful book. Everyone loves it for good reason. And we start Pirkei Avot speaking about the world stands on three things: Torah, Avodah, service of Hashem, and Gemilut Chasadim. And then we speak about how we should serve Hashem not for the sake of reward. And then we speak about how we should desire wisdom and all of those things. And then we come to this Mishnah, and most people kind of try to rush past it quickly and get back onto the next one. I think the reason for that is apparent, but just in case it isn't, let me present it to you like this. There are three messages in this Mishnah. Message number one, open your home wide. Quick show of hands, who thinks that's a good message? Great, thank you. I am seeing some hands. Message number two, be kind to people, be hospitable. Yeah, great, thank you. Message number two, make the poor your family. Make the people who don't have, make them not just that they have somewhere to go once in a while. Make them a part of your family. Make them so integral to you and your family's life that they really are members of the family. Once again, quick show of hands, who says this is a fantastic message. I love this message. I want everyone to know and talk about this message. Message number 3, don't talk to women, even your own wife, or you'll go to hell. Who thinks that this is thank you, Father, who thinks this is just a brilliant message? This is exactly what, we've always wanted to hear from Torah learning, is that men should not be talking to women, even to their own wives. It's very difficult, right? You all understand. And the consequences that came out with swinging. It's not just, and don't talk to a woman. It's, and don't talk to a woman, even your own wife. And it's not just, don't talk so much to your own wife. And if you talk to your own wife, you'll go to hell. It's very strong. And I'm going to say quite surprising and very difficult. So what is going on over here? And before I go any further, I would love to hear from all of you. We're all here because, on some level, we're interested in Pirkei Avot, we're interested in Torah, we're interested in hearing what the Torah says, we're interested in looking at this topic. So why is it that Pirkei Avot, which is the great book of Jewish wisdom, of derech eretz, of goodness, why does it include this, I think, very difficult to understand statement and seemingly very exclusionary statement? And that's, as really the theme about inclusion and exclusion in the Jewish home. And I'm just going to make the point, in case the point needed any further making, right? I'm just going to make the point that we start by saying, open your house and welcome everyone. We continue by saying, and make sure that poor people are really welcomed in. And then we say, and don't talk to those bothersome ladies. And it just seems so out of keeping with the theme of inclusion and inclusivity. How are we to understand this? So before I advance my ponderings on the subject, I would love to hear from all of you. How can we explain this statement in the Mishnah? Rebbetzin. Oh, sorry, I can't hear you. I'm not sure if others can.
I think Rebbetzin must unmute.
No, she is unmuted. No, we're not getting you for some reason, Rebbetzin. I'm sorry. Try without the headphones. No, I don't know. The hands are talking, but the mouth we can't. I'm sorry. If you want, you can try type it in. But okay, we really want to hear from you. Hopefully, we'll get a chance. Thank you. Anyone else? Does anybody else have a suggestion? How do we explain this Mishnah, which really doesn't seem to view this idea of men and women talking, doesn't seem to view that very favorably? How can that be? How are we to understand that? Very good, Rebbetzin. I'm sorry. It seems that way. It seems that the technology is listening to Yosef ben Yochanan. Good. Anyone? Yes, Haley, thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I don't know if it explains why, but I think what's quite interesting sometimes when you have people over, what you tend to see is that the women talk to the women, the men talk to the men. You do sometimes sort of see that just naturally sometimes happens. But yeah, I don't know what explains, yeah.
Yeah, in other words, there's maybe a natural tendency of men to when you're talking about hanging out, right? Hanging out and having that kind of casual conversation. Maybe that's something the Mishnah is encouraging. That's great. Leah, I love this, what you wrote, rather than talk, listen. In other words, yes, the Mishnah is saying, don't spend your whole day talking to your wife, because what you should be doing is listening to her. I think that's lovely. I think you could debate if that's exactly in line with the intention of the Mishnah, but I think that's certainly a great message. I think it's a good point. Let me put it this way. I think it's definitely valuable advice. That what somebody said to me once, right? Why have we got 2 ears and only one mouth? That teaches us in general the amount that we should be listening rather than the amount that we should be talking.
Rabbi,
Mr. Thurgood, yes.
if you didn't have 2 ears, it couldn't go in one ear and out the other. So you do need 2 ears.
Unfortunately true. There's a Gemara or a Midrash where Reish Lakish, Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish said, if I were at the giving of the Torah, at the time when we could have asked Hashem for anything, I would have asked Hashem for 2 mouths. And they said, well, I mean, out of everything you want to ask Hashem for 2 mouths. He says, because how can it be that we have one mouth for words of, that we have one mouth for words of Torah and prayer and holy things, and we use the same mouth for eating, for drinking, for talking about business? We should have 2 different mouths. We should have a holy mouth and a regular mouth. And then he thought about it some more and he says, I've seen the amount of Lashon Hara that people say with one mouth. He says, can you imagine how bad it would be with 2? So he changed his mind on that. But, and this was really what attracted me to this Mishna and to speak about, especially, as I said, in the name of the late Eric, the contrast over here between the inclusion, the bringing people in, which, as you said, is so much a part of his values and the way they live, and then the exclusion and the pushing people out. And especially the role of women in Judaism is a sensitive one. And to make such a statement doesn't seem very welcoming. It seems very exclusionary. So let's try to understand it. And again, is this Mishnah inclusive or exclusive? It clearly contains elements of both. What is it including and what is it excluding? Let's break it down a little bit. It's including social mingling, social mixing. Open your door wide, bring people into your home. It's including socio-economic mixing. Let the poor be members of your household. Don't only hang around with people who are in the same socio-economic bracket with you. It shouldn't be something which unfortunately is a natural way in the world, that wealthy people are friendly with wealthy people and middle-class people are friendly with middle-class people and poor people are friendly with poor people. And you have this kind of social stratification and you kind of end up locked into your own area. One of the beautiful things about community is the way in which people mix. Somebody pointed out, this is part of the magic of Shabbat. We all come together on Shabbat and all of us are just Jews on Shabbat. Doesn't matter that this one knows much more and this one does much more and that one has much more. We just come together. There's this democratizing effect that Shabbat and community has on us. But then what's it being excluding about? Intragender relationships. It's saying, don't have these conversations between men and women, the kind of conversations that Haley's referring to. So there's some areas where it's saying socially, socioeconomically, yes, include, reach out. And then others it's saying, whoa, hold back, not so fast. Now, I will admit that I overstated the case. I was a little dramatic in the beginning because it doesn't say don't talk to women. It says, al tarbe sicha. Many of the commentaries pick this up. And I really think this softens the question. I don't think this answers the question, but I think it softens the question. As I said, I intentionally asked the question in quite a controversial, quite a straight way. But how can it be you're not allowed to talk to women? It's not saying you're not allowed to talk to women. It's saying Tarbe don't have a lot of sikha, of chit-chat. It's advising the man who's reading the Mishnah, right? Don't have a lot of chit-chat with women. Obviously, you can speak about important things. You can speak to the correct extent. It's not excluding speaking in words of Torah. It's not excluding appropriate interaction. It's saying those kinds of conversations where you chat and chat for a long time. No, don't do that. Don't have too much of that. Don't have a lot of that. Even with his man's own wife, he shouldn't have a lot of chit-chat. It should be a focus on things of value, on things that are constructive. You may have heard the saying. It goes something like, small minds talk about other people, large minds talk about practicalities, and great minds speak about ideals. I don't know, it's something like that. The idea being, don't waste your time talking about nonsense when really you could be using that time more constructively. I certainly think that softens the question, but it does not answer the question as far as I'm concerned, because it doesn't say, al tarbe sicha. Don't spend a lot of time chit-chatting. The Mishnah is not coming out really against chit-chat. It's al tarbe sicha im ha'isha. It's telling this man, don't make this excessive chit-chat with women. It's clearly some kind of issues with men and women. So when I, again, was thinking about this and looking through it, to me, this is really about limits. And it's about dealing with limits and with boundaries. And I found myself looking at this mission, this lens, and asking myself, what are the boundaries that we have in our personal, communal lives? What are the boundaries that we need? What are the social boundaries that we have a need, the economic boundaries we have a need, and the sexual boundaries that we have a need? And I think that the Mishnah is speaking to these three different boundaries. And it's asking you, should you live your life with some kind of a wall up between you and other people? Or should you live your life with openness between you and other people? I would love you all just to take a second to type into the chat. If I ask the question like that, should we live our lives with a wall between us and other people? Should we live our lives with openness between us and other people? Just type into the chat, wall or open, and I'll get a sense of where you're at on this. Yeah, Revison, I'm sorry, you are a step ahead, as is Haley, but let's pretend it's black and white, right? Let's pretend it's black and white. Let's make that call. Should we be open? Should we put up a wall between others? Okay, so Revison's not going to commit to an answer, or at least not just simple answer. She wants a more nuanced answer. Haley acknowledges that it depends, but she's mostly going with the open. Thank you. What does everyone else say? Now, I will confess, my expectation was that I'd get quite a lot of people saying you should live your life openly. That was kind of the setup that I was going for. And then I would have said to you, well, thank you very much. Put your money where your mouth is, and please go and open your front door. Open your front door, leave it open. Stop putting up a wall between you and everyone else. Right? Just, how about with COVID? Right, these last couple of years, take off all the masks. Don't have any of this social distancing and everything else. Just stop having a wall between people. We should be open to one another. I think we understand that there is a conflict between. I'm calling it compassion. You could maybe call it other things as well. Yeah, exactly, June. Between compassion and safety. If we look back at the words of the Mishnah, let your house be open wide. Let's imagine somebody who takes that Mishnah seriously. Pirkei Avot says my house must be open wide. They open up all their doors. It's not going to, I mentioned I'm in Joburg for a few days, right? I wouldn't try it in Cape Town. How much more so? How much more so I wouldn't try it in Joburg? What are you going to have your open your doors, have your house open wide? It's madness. It's insanity. It's absolutely impossible. So then what's he telling us? He's telling us have less of a boundary than you would normally think. You're not telling us have no boundaries. You're not telling us open your door. He's saying you have a natural tendency on this area of compassion versus safety. The natural human tendency is we tend to err towards safety. We tend to want to be safe. We tend to want to be in our comfort zone. And as a result, we leave other people outside in the cold. Go beyond what's natural and what's easy. Open your door. Same kind of thing. Let the poor be members of your household. Why stop there? Let the poor have your stuff. Invite them in, right? Fine, do ever. Somebody's sleeping on the side of the road. Come into my home, eat what you want, take what you want. We understand that is not, the solution. This, again, the boundary over here, when he says that the poor be members of your household, there's private ownership and there's communism. And people tend to hold on to their own stuff. And there needs to be more of a willingness to engage others, to share with others, to make your things other people's things as well. That's the challenge that Rabbi Yosef ben Yochanan is saying to us. Don't say, it's my stuff. Say, it's my stuff, but I must share it with you on a regular, ongoing basis. It is not mine alone. It's mine, but it is not mine alone. It is mine to share. It is mine to give. It is mine to the extent that the poor become members of your household. And finally, in the sexual sphere, we have equality and morality. Now, I'm not crazy about all of these terms. I'm not sure that I'm using the right words in each case. So I'm trying to, explain them. And that's why I said at the beginning, that I'd really love this to be a conversation and have some discussion back and forth. Because if I'm not capturing the right idea or putting it in the right way, I would welcome the opportunity to do so or to have other ways of doing so. But when it comes to, opening the doors completely between men and women, there are moral issues that are at stake. Certainly in the kind of society that Rabbi Yosef ben Yochanan lived. Let's speak about his society and then let's speak about our society. He lived in a much more gender segregated society. Now, I'm not saying that as a good thing. I'm not saying that as a bad thing. I'm just trying to contextualize his teachings and where he's coming from. In his times, men and women did not meet one another in the workplace. Men and women did not meet one another in the marketplace, in the shops. And men and women did not meet one another at weddings and bar mitzvahs. It was quite rare for men and women to be in one another's company, unless they were family and they were having family get-togethers, at which point they would be having those interactions. But the kind of general social interactions that we have that exist between men and women these days was not something that was a part of his work. And his concern was, and I don't think it's an unreasonable concern, his concern was that if you open up a closed society like that, you are going to have consequences and sometimes undesirable consequences. You're going to have, young men and young women who don't always behave in the way that they need to behave. You're going to have, and I'm sorry to bring this up, but let's be frank, the more access, you have between the genders, you're going to have men taking advantage of women, right? And if we didn't know about that from the Hollywood scandals, we unfortunately have seen far too much of it in the Jewish world, and about what some of these men have gotten up to. The more you open up those boundaries, the more you open up the opportunities for immorality, either mutual immorality or criminal immorality. But if you close it off completely, then what have you got? Then you've got inequality. Then you've got segregation. This is a real issue. I think this is something that we should not, try to minimize. An issue that comes up. I'm going to stop the slideshow for a second. An issue that's of much debate at the moment, especially in America, is unisex bathrooms. Right? That should it be that there's equality in bathroom access? There's no such thing as a men's bathroom and a women's bathroom. It's a bathroom, and everyone comes in, and go heavy. So I think all of us probably didn't grow up with that, and all of us feel that that's not really appropriate. as much as that is clearly and openly a step towards equality, we don't feel maybe that that's so much in touch with our sense of, appropriate mixing between men and women. And yet, I would venture to say that in not a single one of our homes is there men's bathrooms and women's bathrooms. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but every single one of us are happy with unisex bathrooms in our homes. So what's the issue? The issue is there's family and there's non-family, and there's different rules that apply. And that's really the idea that Rabbi Yosef ben Yochanan is saying. And even though he maybe takes a harder line on this issue, even with regards to family, right? He makes this point of the difference between family and non-family, the kind of mixing, the kind of boundaries, the kind of limitations that we have. So I think we all understand and agree that there should be some limitations in this relationship. How do I explain his comment? Even with one's wife, I think even with one's own wife, there need to be boundaries. And I'm sorry for being crass, but I just should a married couple walk around at home? They're just at home. It's just the two of them. Should they walk around with clothes on or without clothes on? They should walk around with clothes on. Why? Maybe there shouldn't be boundaries between them. There shouldn't be. No, there should. No, they should. Even in that kind of case, it's appropriate. There should be an appropriate sense of distance, appropriate barriers, even between husband and wife. Now, obviously, between husband and wife, there's far less barriers than virtually any other relationship. Maybe parent and child when the children are young. Certainly when the children grow up, it's more barriers than between husband and wife. But even between husband and wife, there are some kind of barriers. It's about negotiating and navigating those barriers appropriately. And, finally, looking at these three areas, right? The social sphere, the economic sphere, and the sexual sphere. Which of these boundaries need strengthening? Where do we need to put up more of a wall? And where do those walls need to come down? And where do we need to be saying, we should be more open in this regard, right? I would, yes, Mr. Thurgood. You'll have to unmute yourself.
No, there we go. I think we must look at the times of the ancient Greeks. We are again living in the times of the ancient Greeks. All their moral values are becoming our moral values. If we look at the Western world, the Western democratic movement is heading towards the ancient Greek thing of homosexuality is acceptable. In fact, it's the highest form of love and all this sort of thing. And what happened to that civilization? It disappeared. And I think if we look at the civilizations that are too open and have no boundaries or values, they disappear. So I think that we do need boundaries. We need to think about them, but we must think about them from a Torah point of view and not from a moralistic point of view. That's my view.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Thurgood. I think, some of those examples that you gave, I think deserve full discussions in their own right. But and I'm also not sure exactly, the differentiation between a moral point of view and a Torah point of view. So that also, I think that you're raising good points, so that probably need to be a little bit more unpacked.
When I talk about morals, I'm talking about Western liberal, what they call morals, which are in fact not morals.
Okay.
We must get the Torah values.
I'm with you.
No.
I'm with you. So, okay, we approach what kind of society does the Torah envision? What kind of society is Torah? The final point that I want to propose or present on this is that in these three areas, in the social, in the economic, and in the sexual, I think we all recognize, I hope that if you didn't agree with me before, you agree with me now, that there need to be appropriate limitations in each of these areas. The walls should not be too high, the doors should not be too open, right? You should have walls and doors that open and block appropriately. But the natural human tendency is to pursue safety over openness, over others, is to pursue one's own over sharing, and is to pursue gratification over appropriate boundaries. And so what I want to say, coming back to the beginning, coming back to the Mishnah that I start, is I want to say that Rabbi Yosef ben Yochanan is challenging us in each of these areas. So let's go back to that Mishnah, the Mishnah with which we started, and read it with these new eyes. And you'll tell me if you agree with me or not. Rabbi Yosef ben Yochanan, the man of Yerushalayim, says, "May your home be open wide." I wouldn't necessarily one of those as "May your home be." It sounds like a blessing. He's saying, "Open, your home should be. Your home should be open wide. I know what you want. I know you want to stay with your same people in your comfort zone, with the ones that you like, and the ones that you know you're going to have a reliably good time and an interesting conversation. I know that you want your comfort zone. No, move out of your comfort zone, bring in other people. Make the poor members of your household. I know what you want. You've worked hard for your money. You want to keep it for yourself. The people who don't have. Look, maybe they were unfortunate, maybe they were whatever, but let's have a little bit. They must deal with themselves, and I'm going to deal with myself. No, he's challenging you. Don't follow your natural instincts in that area, or don't follow the natural societal structure in that area. Make more overtures towards the others. And then when it comes to issues around morality and distance, here it's the exact opposite. Since the natural human tendency is towards more openness than is appropriate, therefore he's coming to tell you, you need to scale that back a bit. You need to pull back. You think the more openness, the better. The more, the more interactions between men and women, the better. The more we can all, be exactly the same, the better. I'm saying to you, no. Let's have some appropriate distancing between the genders as well. So, inclusion and exclusion in the Jewish home is always a process of navigating the boundaries. But what Rabbi Yosef ben Yochanan is coming to tell us, is coming to do, I believe, is to unsettle us. What Rabbi Abram Joshua Heschel called holy discontent. It's coming not to make us feel comfortable, not to put us at ease, not to make us say, fantastic. He's coming to say, hold on a second. Rethink your priorities. Rethink the way that you're doing this. You think you're doing such a fantastic job. Tell me, is your home open wide enough? You think you're so good to those in need. Tell me, are you just giving them something at the robots, or paying towards an organization? Or are they actually at your table? Have you actually made them members of your household? And then finally, you pride yourself on being so open, to use my father's word, so democratic, right? You pride yourself on being so modern and so egalitarian. Are you behaving in an appropriately moral fashion? Are you creating a society in which the rights of everyone, including women, are going to be properly respected, and you're not creating situations in which people are going to get into, as I said, either mutual mischief or criminal mischief? Yeah. So that's my proposal for understanding this shiur. And the final word I'll say on it, before again opening it up to any other questions or comments, again from Rabbi Abram Joshua Heschel. To give it a little bit of context, there's a great book that Rabbi Beryl Wein recommended. It's called How to Become a Bishop Without Being Religious. And as Rabbi Wein says, you can swap out bishop for senior rabbi. How to become a senior rabbi without being religious. The guy who wrote this, he's not anti, he's not saying put on don't be religious. He's saying, listen, the stuff between you and Hashem is a small part of the professional job of being a rabbi. I'm going to tell you the professional job of being a rabbi. I'm going to tell you what kind of car you should drive, how you should dress, who you should marry, how you should speak, if you want to get ahead. And he says his insights are so good. This is what he says about a sermon. And tell me, think back to a great sermon that you've heard. I'll just give you a second. Think back to a great sermon that you've heard, something that you really, that was a good sermon. Just give me a quick show of hands when you got something in mind. If you've never heard a good sermon, I can recommend some rabbis. But he says that He says there are three things. Yes, Haley.
Oh, sorry. Just saying
Okay.
sorry.
No worries. He says there are three things that a good sermon does. He says, make people laugh, make people cry, and make people feel religious. What does he mean? Right? Make them laugh. It doesn't have to be that you tell a joke. It's saying that, yeah, they feel good. There's a positive. Make people cry is a serious moment. So hold on a second. And then there's make people feel religious. Give them a good message so they feel good about themselves and walk out of there with a smile on their face. Most good sermons meet those criteria. Rabbi Abram Joshua Heschel said, absolutely not. You look at the prophets. The prophets are the people who are always saying, what you're doing is not good enough. You need to be doing more. Look at what's out there that you're not paying attention to. Look at the great needs of others. Look at the great problems that exist. Look at the sorry state of spirituality in the world. Look at the lack of kindness. Look at the lack of humanity. You've got to do more. That's the approach that I see Rabbi Yosef ben Yochanan coming over here. Lest we pat ourselves on the backs, lest we satisfy ourselves with our achievements, he's urging us to say no. Where you're too closed, open yourself up a little bit more. When you're too open, maybe it's time to close it off. He's challenging us in 3 comfort zones and calling upon us to do greater kindness, but also to be cautious in the way in which we open those boundaries. And I'll conclude the way that I started, that although I never was privileged to know the late Eric Samson, I know him through his family, through his works, through his deeds, and really this as part of the entire series of Shirim in his merit and his memory should stand as a yet another of the many tremendous merits that he accrued and the wonderful example that he set. Yehi zichro baruch, may his memory always be for a blessing. Questions, comments, disagreements? Thank you, Zoom user.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's sure, Rabbi Sam. Excellent, very difficult in today's world. I mean, for that message to be heard by particularly young people who are questioning gender in all its forms. And where that fits in. But yeah.
I think that's a good point. And that's why part of what I'm trying to do is to frame it not just as a discussion around gender. You know, I think that's the particular application of the principle that he's choosing. And I think that was the particular application in his society. But I think you're right. I think we need to take that and apply it to the new modern context and think about how to translate that message into a way that will be valuable and relevant to people.
Thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you, Everton. I'm glad that this was. No, I agree with you. But that's the difference between a shir and a drasha. A shir is a thought provoker. A drasha is something else. Can maybe get into those details another time. You don't think so? Great. Thank you, everybody. And this link, God willing, same time, same place next week. We have every Monday night. We have a shir. Yeah, I hear you. Everton. Every Monday night we have a shir in person in the shul, except for this week because I'm away, and over Zoom as well. And I'm always on the prowl for topics. So if there's anything you'd like me to speak on or you'd like to hear more about, please let me know, and I will add it. You are most welcome, Dorothy. Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thanks. Bye, Father. Cheers, everybody.
Yeah.